So again, the hook just goes, or pardon me, the tube just goes onto the mandrel. A little bit of pressure on the front. And just test to see if it's spinning. This is a fly I came up with probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Call it a Heron Intruder. Just using Lady Amherst's orange. And some guys will put this into a dubbing loop. I'd like to just put it on in chunks, to be honest. A lot of you guys use dubbing loops for stuff like that.
What type of material is that, sorry?
It's called Lady Amherst Center Tail Feather, and it's just dyed a bright orange. Sometimes it's called the zebra tail. So I usually go 3 clumps, and once this pattern's done, it's so webby and kind of buggy looking. Everything kind of hangs out every direction, so you don't have to be too fussy about it.
So you're tying that on 3 different sides?
Yeah, 3 different sides of the tube. Some guys will be more particular. They'll do in 5 or 6 different places and have it totally spaced out. But you'll see when I finish the fly, it's such a buggy looking fly, it doesn't really matter. Throw just a little flash in the back.
Do you ever weigh the underside of the tube?
Sorry?
Do you ever weigh the underside of the tube if you're not tying it around?
What do you mean weigh the underside?
If you had a pattern that wasn't intended to be tied around,
He wants the pattern to be straight up.
Oh, okay.
put a thick layer of thread.
You know, the only kind of thing I can think of that where guys want their tubes to, you always want your hook kind of laying like that in the water, right? You don't want it dipping down or dipping up, unless some guys have some reason for that. But we call it hook hang down, and that's another reason why people use tubes quite often. Is you can control the weight of the back of the fly. So if you have, just by the gauge of hook you use, you can control how it sits in the water. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking that that's kind of fussy, getting a little bit fussy about how your hook lays, but it's within guys that have been, or with guys that have been doing tubes for a long time. It's a pretty big issue. They think that if your hook's sitting, butt down like that you're going to miss takes from fish. If it's sitting parallel like it should be, that you're gonna hook up more often. But I don't know if you guys have heard that theory before or not, but we got quite a few guys that are concerned about it. So that's why you see a lot of tube guys adding cones to the front too, just to kind of balance it out a little bit.
Are there very many patterns tied this way that are not tied in round? They're tied more? Yeah,
there's definitely, and I brought a few examples here, especially a lot of guys in the Atlantic, classic Atlantic patterns, a lot of them are being done on tubes now. A lot of the steelhead flies too, kind of the traditional like freight trains and coal cars and kind of flies, like more standard ones from probably the 80s and 90s, are being tied just like they were on a hook.
So with the hook stuck in the back of the tubing, that would keel it so it would ride properly?
Yeah, it kind of acts as a keel. Yeah. So I'm going to go halfway with black floss, about halfway. And the idea when I came up with this pattern, I was trying to keep it really thin profile, as thin as you can be on a tube. Just some oval tinsel. Add a little bit more Amherst. It's almost like 3 sections of this fly. You can have the tail of Amherst, a middle section, and then the front you're also going to add some. So again, just in 3 clumps.
Do you have to buy an entire cake?
Pardon me?
Do you have to buy an entire cake?
An entire...
An entire cake to get that way together?
Oh, no, not at all. No, these come in, I mean, we sell them in sections, like section like that, 5-inch. You can get them at most shops, full tails too. No, they're around quite often, actually. Or in most shops, I should say. So again, 3 clumps, and you can just start kind of wiggling it out, almost looking like legs. This was originally kind of a prawn pattern.
Did you stagger that from the first stuff that you did?
A little bit. You know what? We've tied them the exact same length before, staggered. Didn't seem to make a difference. So I'll just turn the tube, and I'll put the flash in the same place where I put the back flash. So it's all. This is going to be the back of the fly. So it looks like it's tied in the round, this fly, but you'll see when I finish, it's not going to be in the round. It's going to be like it's on a hook. Now we get to use the fun stuff. Have you guys ever used heron before? Okay, so that's a heron feather. See, that's the natural color we bring in. It's not the gray heron you're thinking of. We do sell gray heron as well, but this is a different color. It's kind of a chocolate brown. You're just gonna try to find the top of this stuff. And how many of you used blue-eared pheasant before? No?
Well, I've used pheasants.
Pheasant, yeah. This is like blue-eared pheasant. It's just way longer. Tie it in by the tip, and just pull the tip back. Now I'm going to use some seal, or whatever you prefer. I know I brought some. And again, you might want to make a dubbing loop. I don't get too fancy about it usually. And again, with a tube, you're using a lot of dubbing.
If you had a fine enough pin or whatever you want to call that, could you use larva lace as your base?
Yeah, you could for sure. Yeah, we've actually, when I show you our website here, we've got a lot of patterns that use, like I said, laser wrap. It's one of the best friends of tube flies. It's you get some phenomenal looking stuff. So what we do, we have. Well, I'll finish this fly and I'll show you. So you want to see if you can get 3 wraps out of this, moving up.
Barely.
Just barely, yeah. And you know, we have guys now that make this fly with our gray heron. And our gray heron comes in an extra large size. So if you want to, and the reason we brought this in is because it's got the size you need for tubes. And some of these are 11 inches long. But we stick with the other stuff. Now I'll add another heron feather, just to give it some more bugginess.
I didn't realize the hook hookup is as simple as that.
Yeah, it's, you know, other guys will make a loop too. They'll make a loop with different kind of knots and things like that. But if you do it just the direct way, you're just passing the hook or passing the line right through the tube.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that. I thought there was a metal thing that went in there.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of tube fly companies. I mean, some of them you've probably heard of. They try and oversimplify tubes a bit. And then there's other places. You go to our website and you'll be confused a little bit sometimes. The best way to go, those first 3 flies that I tied on plastic, it's best just to stay on plastic until you figure things out. It's like, if you can think back to when you started doing flies, you didn't learn everything at once. It's, you found out what you liked and what you were good at, or something you wanted to try, and just went from there. Okay, so we're going to add one more layer of Amherst. sorry, this is where you want to get the nice longest stuff you've got.
Actually, it does look like a nice way around that Stuart Intruder.
Again, just in three places. You can see what I'm talking about now, about how, you know, placing the Lady Amherst really isn't that important, because the look of the fly is going to be just kind of like a bad hair day kind of thing.
Yeah, I have them all.
Yeah, me too. 10 years ago.
That's why I get Christie to help me with all the time.
So you want to find the back of the tube again, where the flash and the tail in the middle section were, and put one more whack of flash. Right. I'll usually finish it off with some kind of collar, maybe an orange guinea collar, or I'll use just plain teal today. Trouble is finding a nice big one. And that's, you know, that's where you're going to find with tube flies, and that's why we started doing a lot of our own feather stuff, is because of the size of feathers. We're still not happy with the teal we're getting, but to find feathers big enough to make a nice pattern, it's kind of tough. You know, I mean, you're the same as me. When I was, before we had a company, it was, you go to a fishing hole or wherever, you get a little bag of feathers and 3 are useful. The rest goes in the garbage. Yeah. So I'll just go tip first. See if you can get 2 or 3 wraps out of it. Getting too messy there.
Apple pliers.
Yeah. So I got a theory, if I'm using hackle pliers, the fly's too small. Maybe I'll just pull it back and kind of get the foundation of the head going. Hey, now I finish this off. Just GP style, actually. So I'll go in with the tippet eyes kind of thing. And sorry, that I gave the wrong name. It's GP Intruder is what we call it. So you just cut it in the V like you usually would for a general practitioner. And then you do the shell back just like you normally would for a GP as well. What's that? Thanks.
Good for old guys, I can see it from back here.
And well, and you can see that's what I was saying about with using tubes. When you whack your hook on a rock or a tree, and the hook's gone, this fly that's taken 20, 30, however long it takes. I mean, a lot of these flies you put a lot of investment into, right? A lot of time anyway. So you can change out that hook at least. And I mean, even with a pheasant skin, there's only going to be 20, 30 feathers that are good enough to be a shellback for this fly, just because of the size of the thing. I just use 3 feathers. Not more to sell the fishermen than the fish. I usually throw jungle chalk on too. Not necessary at all. But again, a lot of steelhead guys think especially on a GP or something, that makes the look a little more shrimpy. The eyes, I don't know. We tie them in pretty long.
Here's a fish a target to shoot at.
Exactly. But I was just, sorry, was it Jim again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Jim before that, you know, I've fished so many times where jungle cock rips off, and it seems like they like it even better. So. Again, you've got the nice big head, but in proportion to the fly, it's okay. You see, definitely a buggy pattern.
And then, what is the most popular color?
The orange for sure, yeah, no question. A lot of guys do them in chartreuse too. Some guys will actually mix the colors. They'll do the orange in the back and then another color of Lady Amherst in the middle. But that's the original. And the other, probably the second most popular fly is the same thing as this, just dark colored. It's the black shellback, the black seal dumming. It's essentially the same fly, just a darker version. Yeah, kind of like.